Well, good morning and welcome to Morning Gospel Fuel with Mr. G. It is Monday, July 4th, Independence Day for the United States. So be sure to say a prayer, maybe even a rosary for Our Lady of the Americas, the Blessed Virgin, so that our freedom can continue. And today is also the 14th week of Ordinary Time and the feast day of Saint Elizabeth of Portugal. And she had an arranged marriage in 1281 to King Denis of Portugal when she was 10 years old. But they didn't eventually celebrate the wedding until she was 17. But Saint Elizabeth was very educated. She was educated very piously to be very life centered around her faith. She led a life of strict regularity from her childhood, where she even said the full divine office daily, which is a task. And then she also fasted and did many other penances. And she did a lot to offer for the poor and the sick. And then eventually her prayer and her patience succeeded in converting her husband, King Denis, who had been leading a sinful life of spousal abuse, I presume to her, as well as adultery. So talk about a prayer warrior. She is the co-patron of the Diocese of San Cristobal de la Laguna, which is the Canary Islands in Spain. Anyway, today's gospel is from Matthew chapter 9, verses 18 to 26. Let's begin in the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit, amen. While he was saying these things to them, an official came forward, knelt down before him, and said, "My daughter has just died, but come, lay your hand on her, and she will live." Jesus rose and followed him, and so did his disciples. A woman suffering hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched the tassel on his cloak. She said to herself, "If only I can touch his cloak, I shall be cured." Jesus turned around and saw her and said, "Courage, daughter, your faith has saved you." And from that hour, the woman was cured. When Jesus arrived at the official's house and saw the flute players and the crowd who were making a commotion, he said, "Go away, the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they ridiculed him. When the crowd was put out, he came and took her by the hand, and the little girl arose, and news of this spread throughout all the land. So we have the official's daughter and the woman with a hemorrhage, two instances of death and suffering and pain. But then what does that do for both instances? That suffering is what brings them to a life of faith and kind of desperation. And as we know, how often is it in our daily lives in which we are suffering or somebody else is suffering and we have nothing and no one to turn to, and there's nothing we can do. Doctors can't do nothing but our faith. And this is what oftentimes takes us to realize and accept the power of God. And that is something that a priest had told me not too long ago, is that we need to focus on the power of God and less on our own human weakness. Because God can do a lot, as we hear and read and claim to understand and believe by our faith. But it is oh so hard many times throughout our lives. So we need to, like Jesus tells the girl, is to have courage. As he says, "Courage, daughter, your faith has saved you." So Jesus wants our faith to deepen first because he cares about our souls and our interior life more so than the exterior, because he knows that this earthly life is so temporary, but it's our hearts and our interior life that needs conversion so that we can live eternally in heaven someday. And we can either choose to accept or deny that fact, because we have the freedom to do so, which is a good term to use on this Independence Day of the U.S. So, with all that being said, have a great day. God bless. Keep it real. In the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit, amen.